Hey, everybody. Uh, as you know, if you've been on these before, we typically wait 4 to 5 minutes as people join. So just hang tight and we'll get started here just around 5 after. Good evening, everybody. Just a few more minutes while people join, and then we'll get started.
For those of you looking for the Q&A, we're trying to turn it on. We had a little technical problem. So give us a minute and we're going to work on that.
Got about another minute. It's a little after 8:03 Eastern, and we'll get started here in just a minute.
Hey, John, it's Deborah. I apologize. I have to actually restart the webinar to turn the Q&A back on because it
No, don't do that.
just leave it.
We
Okay.
got the
It's
question
for some
email. We
reason
can
it
let
was
people.
turned off by accident. So,
That's
okay.
We'll
I can
let
restart
people.
it though pretty quickly, but I can't edit it without right now.
That's fair. We'll get started without that, and then I'll address people to the
Okay.
TCC questions. So,
Okay.
guys, as you're joining, go ahead and take note of this TCC questions at pszjlaw.com. That's a different email address that we had to put up. So, if you have any questions, please send them to that directly. Okay, Deb, it's about 7:05 or 8:05. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the TCC Town Hall. My name is John Humphrey, and I've got my co-chair here, Doug Kennedy, and familiar faces, Deb Grassgreen and Jim Stang. And we'll be introducing Richard Pacholski, Jim's partner of 40 years and one of the lead litigators at the firm. So we'll get to that in just a moment. So we're going to keep this relatively short today. We're in the ramp towards voting, so there's just not a lot of new developments. We're doing this to keep you guys informed. As I said earlier, the new email address for questions is tccquestions at pszjlaw.com. We don't have the Q&A turned on tonight, so you can send those directly, and we've got some folks there answering them in real time. So what are we here to do today? We're here to give you an update, address the status. We always want you to hear from the TCC directly. I mean, we're volunteers. We've been doing this going on 18, 19 months. And so we hope to educate you a little bit on bankruptcy. We are absolutely not here to address any legal advice or legal questions for you personally. We can't answer your personal challenges that you're having in your particular state. And, I would like to welcome the BSA and the coalition attorneys. We've noticed that you guys have obviously been attending. I was quoted in the coalition town hall earlier this week. I thought that was honorable, and I'd love to be invited to be interviewed with you guys. And we've noticed that some of the anonymous questions have found their way into court documents. So obviously, we have to be measured and know that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And it's a pretty intense time in this case. There's been a lot going on. There's over 40 depositions that have to happen in like the next 30 to 45 days. Millions of pages in discovery going both ways. And all of the law firms have been ramping up, as have we. So what I'd like to do is introduce Rich Pacholski. I know we were going to do that a little later, Rich, but I just want you to introduce yourself and say hi and a little bit about the law firm you founded over 40 years ago.
Thanks so much, John. And I really appreciate having the opportunity to work with everybody. I know that there's a lot going on, and this is a very intense time, as John has said. But as I will describe a little later after Jim speaks, I have gotten completely up to speed, and we are providing all of the firm resources to this matter. As John said, Jim and I started the firm approximately just under 40 years ago. Jim and I have worked hand in hand for years, mostly on different cases, but frankly, some on some together. And we've built the firm to being the largest legal restructuring firm in the country with approximately 80 lawyers in all forms of restructuring. We've worked on every type of case you can imagine. Well, I consider Jim the foremost authority in all respects with respect to abuse issues. I have spent a lot of my time representing victim committees, specifically more so in financial fraud, where I've represented the interests of tens of thousands of victims. And for that, I am sensitive to the issues that come up in this case and look forward to providing the best possible result for the survivors, which all of the survivors are absolutely entitled to. But I will be speaking again, but I at least wanted to give everybody an opportunity to meet me at least at the first instance. And then I'll go into a little more detail after Jim has an opportunity to speak.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Thanks, Rich. And for those of you who've been sort of hitting us with questions like, tell us a little more about the team, we've noticed in front of the judge. And so we're just really excited to have Rich as an additional member of our team. So Doug, I think 2 weeks ago, I was on my way to go to a banquet in Arkansas, and I did a little cameo in front of Bass Pro Shop. Today, you're pulled over on the side of the highway to go rescue your brother, and I think your first topic is to talk a little bit about voting. So could you lead off with that?
Sure. Thanks, John. I appreciate it, and good evening, everyone. As John mentioned, unfortunately, my brother lives up in New Jersey, had a Slate House nightmare, so I hopped in the car and drove up to see him. So I'm using my phone as a hotspot, so my apologies if I'm not entirely clear tonight. Also, if you're tuning in late, we had a technical problem with the question and answers, unfortunately, so we weren't able to put that on tonight without stopping the webinar and starting it up again. So we'll get back to the Q&A. But again, as John mentioned, please send your questions into the email address that we'll repeat and have at the end of the slide. So I do just want to mention quickly about the voting. That's the very most important thing right now. We have a deadline coming up. The votes have to be received, not postmarked, but received by December 14th. So it's getting pretty close now. And with Christmas cards and packages, please, please, please don't put that in the mail on the 13th. Make sure it gets to Omni by the 14th. As it stands now, there'll also be a preliminary voting report on December 21st. So a week, again, a preliminary voting report. That's the timetable as it stands right now. And I know there's been some discussion about whether or not that's going to get extended out. That's a lawyer bankruptcy issue, and Rich is going to talk about that a little bit later. But right now, our message is crystal clear, gang. If you haven't voted, you need to make sure Omni gets that by the 14th. Also, if you have voted and you have any change of mind, now is the time to contact your attorney or again, get that ballot in. I should mention that the ballot that goes to Omni from you will supersede anything that occurs beforehand in case you do change your mind. So just want to let you know that. Also, I want to be very clear about something too on behalf of the TCC. The TCC is 9 survivors. We have the advisement of incredible professionals, legal professionals in bankruptcy, also financial and insurance professionals. It's our opinion that this settlement should be rejected. By bankruptcy code and law, we have the right to tell the people we advocate for, in this case, the survivors, that we do not agree with this settlement. We think it can be better. We think it should be rejected. Having said that, if you believe that you want to vote for the settlement, against the settlement, that is your right, and we encourage you to go ahead and make sure that you vote. We know as survivors, the very most important thing you can do is get some kind of power over a situation where you felt yourself powerlessness. So it's important that you exercise your right to vote, and we respect anyone who votes either for or against this settlement, but the TCC is recommending that it is rejected because we think that there can be a lot more related to the financial settlement, the youth protection settlement, and the governance of the trust. That's been our stance. It has not changed. And if anything occurs in this settlement, we'll continue to advise everyone as well. So that's sort of the, let me check my notes here. That's sort of the thumbnail description of what's going on. Oh, one last thing. We have heard from a number of survivors that essentially, I wish my attorney would just leave me alone. I've already voted, my vote's not going to change, or I've gotten a phone call and being encouraged to change my vote. This is something that you need to discuss with your attorney, put it in writing, and just say my vote is in and I feel comfortable about that. So there's nothing really the TCC can do. We're just asking you to advocate for yourself if you feel like you don't want to be bothered and you just want to wait for this vote to come in at that point. So that's the gist of it, and be well, everyone.
All right, appreciate you pulling over at a Wawa somewhere to participate. Some of you guys will know what that store is. Most of you probably won't. Keep in mind that we are continuing negotiations. There's going to be, I think there's a mediation next week. There's some very intensive topics that we're mediating. So, you know, I'm an optimist, but, you know, I'm also very close to Missouri, the show me state. So talk's cheap. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim. Jim's got an update on some of the activities of the last few weeks. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim Stang. Jim?
Thank you, John. And I want to say hello to everyone. I'm sorry that I was unable to attend last week's town hall. Some of the message I want to give tonight is going to be a little repetitive of what Doug said, but I'm going to do it because it's so important. And then I want to give an explanation as to a couple of things that have developed over the last 2 weeks. Please, everyone, we urge you to vote on the plan. The deadline is December 14th for Omni to receive your ballot. The deadline is the receipt of the ballot. So as Doug said, with the slowdown with the Postal Service, the overburdening of all of the Christmas and holiday gift-giving traffic, please make sure you get it in on time so that it's timely received. The voting margins that are necessary to block the plan, as I said, the TCC is urging you to vote no on the plan, is based on the number of creditors voting. One of the things that Doug said to me a long time ago when we started dealing with the voting issues was how important it was for survivors to have their voices heard. This is the occasion. This is the time. This is your opportunity to say how you want your claim resolved. If you voted and you submitted your ballot to Omni, you can change your vote by submitting a new ballot. If you voted no and you've decided you'd rather vote yes, you can do that. If you have voted yes, you can change your vote to no. But whatever you do, your votes have to be in by December 14th. And the last cast ballot is the one that counts. If you're voting through your attorney, communicate your vote to the attorney in writing, because they can submit on your behalf a master ballot. But make sure that your instructions are in writing. You will have the opportunity to check to make sure your vote was recorded and tabulated properly. But if it's only based on, but I told someone on the phone how I wanted to vote, you're not in a good position. So, Mom used to say people put erasers on pencils for a reason. Mistakes get made. Keep your instructions in writing so that you can go back and validate whatever is being communicated to the court in terms of your vote. The bottom line is, folks, vote, communicate your vote so that it's timely, be heard. Because after this, you're done in terms of being able to voice your opinion on how your claim should be resolved. The TCC wants to make sure that your vote is on the basis of adequate information. We urge you to look at the recommendation letters that were in the packages you got with the plan and the disclosure statement. The TCC has a website. The coalition has a website. The BSA has a website. A lot of you have attorneys. Talk to your attorney. Don't talk to the secretary. Don't talk to the clerk who answers the phone. Talk to your attorney so that you make the informed decision on how you want to vote. So you can accept your lawyer's advice. You can reject your lawyer's advice. Some people even delegate the decision on how to vote to their attorney, but do it on an informed basis. And for those of you that don't have a lawyer, and gosh, we know some of the most common questions on these town halls have been, do I need a lawyer? If you decided not to have one, there is a lot of information out there to give you the information necessary to make an informed decision. So, what's been happening lately? As some of you may have heard, on November 5th, the Pacholski Stang law firm used BSA survivors at pszjlaw.com to send out an email and a letter from Tim Kosnoff. Tim Kosnoff, the Eisenberg Rothweiler firm, and a firm called AVA Law go under the name Abused and Scouted. They are all three firms, Mr. Kosnoff's firm, the Eisenberg Rothweiler firm, and AVA Law, are individual law firms that many of you have signed up as your counsel, all three firms. Mr. Rothweiler and Mr. Kosnoff disagree on whether you should vote yes or no on the plan. And for the past many, many months, well before November 5th, their disagreement was no, through different social media platforms and other means of communication. The fact that my firm sent out an email, Mr. Kosnoff's email and the letter, has raised a great deal of controversy about the propriety of our firm, in effect, sending out Mr. Kosnoff's letter and email. Pleadings have been filed in the Bankruptcy Court about us doing that. There have been hearings in the Bankruptcy Court about us doing it. The firm has acknowledged to the court and to people who've received that initial November 5th email that it was a mistake for us to use that platform to send out Mr. Kosnoff's communications. And while the TCC does advocate that survivors vote no on the plan, any confusion caused by us sending out that November 5th email is regretted. So, in order to diffuse the controversy about my and John Lucas's personal involvement in the decision to send out Mr. Koznov's email and letter, I called Rich up. Rich and I have been practicing law together for actually since 1980, because we were associates at the same law firm for a while. And then we formed the firm in 1983. And I called Rich and I said, can you take the lead on the representation of the Tort Claimants Committee? I asked Rich to do that because this controversy about the propriety of us sending out that email on November 5th was taking the attention away from you folks and putting it on us. But this case is about you. It's not about the lawyers. It's about you getting the best deal possible. And I felt that the controversy regarding that November 5th email was taking the attention away from where it should be, which was getting you the best deal. So the firm, me, John, Rich, Deb, all the people you've met over the last several months, we are laser focused on getting you the best deal possible under the circumstances. And while Rich is going to take the lead on the case at this point, I'm not disappearing. John Lucas, although he's not here tonight, because he's working on important stuff regarding the plan. That's why he's not here tonight. We're not going away. The court knows we're not going away. All the parties who've raised the issues regarding the November 5th email know we're not going away. This is a team effort. And the team effort is working very, very hard for all of you. We will continue to give Rich our best advice, to give him the benefit of the 18 months that we all have worked together on this case. And we're going to get if we can get to a recommendation on a plan, we're going to give that to you, and it's going to be on the best advice possible. So I've been doing this, as some of you have heard me say before, this meaning this sex abuse representation, since 2004. I don't know, I'm up to about 15 or 16 committees I've represented or currently represent. This is who I have been for a long time. I'm not walking away, but we made this decision out of what we thought were the best interests for you. And with that, John, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate your comments and certainly appreciate the depth of the bench and the strength of the team. It really emphasizes why we picked Pacholski, Stang, Zeal, and Jones all those many months ago. So that's great. Sad for the circumstances, but you know, you run into things and you keep on going. So with that, Rich, I'd like to just let you give your perspective coming in and coming up to speed.
I thank you so much, John, for that. So Jim mentioned that he came to me and asked me to take the lead. And that isn't something Jim would typically do, but because of Jim's character, he came to the conclusion he wanted the case, and the case should be about the survivors and not about him in any respect. He did not want to be a distraction. But I made it clear to Jim, and Jim understood this, that however he felt about it, that because of his knowledge of this area in general, and particularly the Boy Scouts, that without his involvement and John Lucas's involvement in their history, that the case would not be able to be operated effectively. And he understood that. And that's why without Jim and John, I don't think we could do the job that we believe we can do. And I believe I can assist in that. And I have committed to the TCC and to the survivors in general that our firm will provide whatever resources are necessary to get the best possible result and a fair result for the survivors. I've worked for the last 2+ weeks to get up to speed. I've put aside other cases because we do have a very deep bench to assist us in getting the results we need. I've added some people to the team that I think are the most intellectually driven people, particularly on confirmation issues, as anyone as any firm has in the country. And it's with that backdrop that I decided that I was not just could bring value, but I would bring value to this process. So I want to get through some of the specifics in that respect. We intend to aggressively pursue fair compensation for the survivors. This case has a lot of antagonism, and our goal, notwithstanding all of that, is to get a fair result for the survivors. That is the least the survivors deserve. But it's not just a compensation issue. There are other issues that we are laser focused on. The youth protection issue, the independence of the trust functioning appropriately so that you not just get your distribution, but you get it in a time-sensitive way, that you receive the money that you're entitled to, that there's future youth protection, that there is a mechanism that everyone feels that the process has been transparent and fair. And frankly, I won't rest until that happens. And I know the other people on our team will also not rest until it happens. And you will hear a lot going on in criticism that we're not supporting, that the TCC has decided not to support, but to vote no. And I believe that they have been very thoughtful in their way. You'll hear that they haven't been, but that's just false. The TCC has been extremely thoughtful. They understand what needs to be done. They have spent an enormous amount of time to get a fair result for the survivors, and they should be applauded for that and not criticized for that. So what's going to happen going forward? Well, what's going forward is we're supposed to, for instance, be involved in mediations next week. We hope they will be productive, but the TCC, until there's a fair result on all issues, both monetary and not monetary, the TCC is going to oppose the plan, and they are going to continue to recommend a no vote on the plan. And so that is how we propose to go forward. Now, Doug raised an issue, and Jim addressed it for a moment, about the voting. And I want to make clear something so that there is not confusion. The voting deadline is December 14th. That's the bottom line. Your ballot has to get in by December 14th. At a hearing this morning, the debtor advised the court that they will be seeking an extension of that deadline. And so we don't want rumors going around that somehow the extension has been granted. It has not at this point. The parties, including the TCC and the Boy Scouts and the coalition and other parties, are supposed to discuss the potential extension of the deadline. The period of time that has been suggested by the Boy Scouts is 2 weeks, but there will be discussion, and this will come up before the court again on Monday, the 6th. Until there's an extension that's granted in which there's a court order, the date is the 14th. It's that simple. It could be extended and it may not be extended. And that's what we have to wait and see. So people should continue moving forward. And as Jim had said, and as John started, the issue is people should vote. Whatever the decision is, they should vote. But the TCC is going to pursue what is in their fiduciary duty, what they believe is correct, which at this point is to oppose the plan. And so with that, John, I would turn it back over to you, and hopefully
Thanks.
I've made
Thank you,
our
Rich.
position clear.
Deb.
Deb, you're on mute.
Hi, everybody. Hey, guys. I was going to answer questions tonight and feed questions to folks, but someone used my Zoom and turned the Q&A off, so that's on me. But a lot of the questions we've been getting have been about voting, so I just want to answer a few of those for you folks because we've been getting them by email, we've been getting voicemails. People have been calling the court and the court's been forwarding messages to us. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly because we can't put it into the chat, the addresses, but a lot of you are asking, what do I do if I didn't get a ballot? What do I do if I want to check with Omni and make sure that they got my ballot and they properly recorded my vote? So I'm just going to share my screen and show this to you. And of course, you can email us and we will send you the same information. But the plan voting agent Omni, here's a phone number, 866-907-BSA1. Or BSA ballots and Omni agent. Now remember, it doesn't have an E in agent, AGNT. You can email them. You can go to their website. There's also a subpage where you can submit an electronic ballot on the Omni website. That's an official ballot on the Omni website. So most of the questions that we've been getting in the last couple of days are about this. Obviously, voting is front and center on everybody's mind. So I just wanted to take a minute. I'll leave this up, John, for a minute, maybe while we talk so people can write it down. If any of you are having trouble, of course, you can go to your lawyers. You should go to your lawyers, but you can also go to Omni. They're the official balloting agent. If you have questions about your ballots, they can also provide you information about your claim that's been on file. So I just wanted to jump in there. And again, I apologize. That was
No, I
my
appreciate
technical
that.
problem on the questions.
I appreciate
So-
that, Deb. You know, guys, the 14th is 12 days away. And if you're not doing an electronic ballot, you got to make up your mind and vote. You've heard it from every one of us tonight, how important this is. You know, for many years, we've been, as survivors, betrayed, lied to, marginalized, and this is your shot. This is your shot to vote. And the TCC is going to respect how you vote. We really will. And we will stand behind that. We just think there are areas that can be improved. We've talked about youth protection. We've talked about the IV files getting out there so that if there are predators in those files, that those can be addressed. We think that a rejection of this is going to yield a better leverage point with the insurance companies and with the local councils and with the sponsoring organizations who right now are getting a hall pass for nothing. That's a huge deal. That's not only a huge deal in this case, it's a issue that's being brought before Congress right now. And then finally, you know, this trust, it gets these billions of dollars in it, and it pays lots of professionals a lot of money to administer it. And, you know, we're sort of hell bent for leather. If we work hard to get the money in it, we want to make sure that it is without reproach, that people get it quickly and in a timely manner, as Rich said earlier, and that the process of these trust distribution procedures are much better than they are today in the current plan. So, Doug, I don't know if you have any closing comments, but that's really all we had tonight, folks. We'll have the recording up on tccbsa.com.
You know, John, the only thing I wanted to add to it, just to echo something you said earlier, 18, 19 months ago, we chose Pacholski Stang to be our law firm, and their bench is deep and it's wide, and the experts we brought on board, our financial experts with BRG and our insurance experts with Pasich, boy, I'm so happy we had them alongside of us in this battle. Just to let every survivor know, tonight, when this call ends at the top of the hour, we're going to have a TCC meeting, the 9 of us, with all our professionals, our state court counsels. When Jim says we're laser focused, or Rich said that, absolutely. We are continuing to monitor this on a daily basis and be engaged and do every single thing we can to achieve our goals so survivors like John and I and the other 7 members of the TC in open and closed states can be proud at think that we did absolutely the best for them. So stay strong, and thanks so much for letting me be on tonight.
Thanks, everybody. You all have a great evening and get ready for the holidays. So long. Take care. Have a good evening.